Hey guys, I got another old journal entry for you. These are from my old prayer journals. If you haven't been following, I am attempting to heal religious trauma through reading my old prayer journals. So, Father, I ask for your forgiveness of all my sins, including the ones I've forgotten or that I'm ignorant of. Father, I'm feeling guilty about something that I did yesterday. I don't even want to write it down. Ooh, guilt-ridden. Give me discernment. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, help me think on those things. Man, was it Avalon? Or was it, who was in Avalon that did the side project of that, whatever is true, of that Philippians verse? Man, that was a jam. I was so focused on my sexual orientation. I wasn't really in the moment and like super aware of other ways that I wasn't living up to the kindness of Christ. I guess what I'm trying to say is I look back on all those times when I was so caught up and obsessed with figuring out what my sexual orientation meant for my faith, that, I didn't really focus too much on building others up, or all of the things that you can do to love on people, to enrich their lives, to foster that connection with people. I was so laser focused on praying away the gay. I feel the anxiety in my body right now. I grew up in a pretty fundamentalist background, so quite literal. Everything in the Bible was taken very literally. When I was growing up in the church, I just sort of assumed that a lot of denominations were similar. I mean, I knew that there were different denominations, and I knew that there were differences, but I didn't really know how vast the differences could be under the Protestant umbrella. I grew up in a non-denominational, I'm going to put that in quotes because it's still associated with the Restoration movement. There were churches that split in years past. Churches of Christ went one way. Non-denominational Christian churches went the other way. So, but they're both from that same root movement. So I went to Nashville, went to college, to an even more conservative college than the church that I grew up in. So church I grew up in, non-denominational Christian, went to Lipscomb University, Church of Christ affiliated. Church of Christers generally don't have musical instruments in their worship services either, which I thought was simply a preference when I went, but I actually didn't know that it was a salvation issue for a lot of them during that time. And it may not be now. I know there are still churches of Christ that have instruments, but back then, late 90s, hardly any of them did when I got to Nashville. So after I graduated, I started, exploring different denominations. I actually went to a Bible study at a Methodist church that changed my life. It was a companion class to a documentary called For the Bible Tells Me So. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. It is amazing. Wonderful thing for parents to watch. If you are a Christian and you have a kid that's coming out, I highly recommend it. It is dated. It's from, I want to say, the early 2000s. So lots of things have changed since then, but it's a wonderful film. At any rate, during this class, I learned that there are Christians, devout Christians, who don't take the Bible literally. This was mind-blowing. When I grew up, Jonah actually really did get swallowed by the whale, etc., etc., etc. When I found out there are some people who approach scripture differently, I was amazed. I'm not Methodist, so school me if I'm wrong, but I do know there's something called the Wesleyan quadrilateral. And it divides the approach to scripture into 4 things. So, scripture, number 1, the sacred text itself. 2, tradition, and how that text has been interpreted throughout the centuries. 3 is reason. I mean, amazing. Guess what 4 is? 4 is experience. Personal experience. As a Methodist, you can approach scripture with those 4 things in mind, and they are all equally important. Scripture, tradition, reason, experience. I was blown away. I had no idea that there were people out there who had been raised in a non-literal congregation. And that, of course, we have parables that everyone sort of recognizes as parables. You know, prodigal son. That's just a story Jesus told. It didn't really happen. He told it to make a point. Same with sowing the seeds in the field. You know, he tells stories to give life lessons. There were other people who also read the rest of the Bible through an allegorical lens. And to me, that was just a life-changing moment.